All right, welcome back to my channel. If you watched my video yesterday, thank you for that. Today is Tuesday, Amazon Prime Day. So if you're looking to buy any accessories for your bike, today's probably the day to do it. I picked up a helmet, did a little bit of research on that, and came across the company called 1000. Their helmets were about $100, but today they are hovering at $79, which is probably the lowest price of the year. So it looks like a cool helmet. Doesn't look like your standard bicycle helmet. It's got a little bit of style to it. So I picked that up, and then I picked up a bike rack holder by a company named Young. That was normally $349, and I think today it's $249 or $269, $200 It has a ramp on it, which I think is key for mounting these bikes, and has a 200-pound capacity. So, because I have a second bike coming, like I mentioned yesterday, the Monarch Marker. So, but today's a beautiful day. I've got the XPeak 2 on zero pedal assist, but I'm about to crank it up here to go up this little hill. And today I want to talk a little bit about some of the gear that I carry with me. Maybe I'll show it to you. Maybe I'll stop somewhere here so you can see. But for right now, I'll just kind of talk you through it. Got the phone holder, as I mentioned. Cheapy, like $15 on Amazon. Holds the phone from the bottom. It's not overly bulky when the bike's just parked. It doesn't have the clips that go around the top. So something nice and simple. And let me see if I can actually show it to you. As I'm riding, you can see that's the phone holder. And the other accessory is this bell right here that has a spot for an air tag on there. So nothing fancy. Put you guys back in the holder here and clip it in. So yeah, I ordered the bike rack, which will extend my range here, because I've done this trail probably 20-30 times now, and I still love it every time, but at some point I'd want to try a couple different trails. Like the Des Plaines River Trail is one I kind of want to try from the Wisconsin border heading south, but I can't easily get there from my house unless I tow the bikes. It's for a 2-inch hitch receiver, which is what my car has, so I really shouldn't have a problem being able to put 2 e-bikes on there. And it has a 200-pound capacity. Like I said, these bikes are about 80 to 90 pounds. And I'll probably take the battery out when I transport it, just to drop a little bit of weight and just not to have it bouncing around back there. Probably the right thing to do anyway. I don't know if most people take the batteries out when they transport their bikes, but I probably will, just because it's not hard to do and just one less thing to worry about. And it'll lighten up the payload on the hitch. And other than that, I'm using like a little bungee cord on the back rack, like something you would use on your trailer or whatever, just a regular bungee cord, going around in a DOP kit bag that was given to me. That's kind of big, and inside of that I have a adjustable spanner wrench, one of those little mini electric pumps. The pump was like $30, but it was a brushless motor, and you type in the air pressure in there and you hook it up to your tire, and it'll just fill it up. And you could do probably, from empty, you could probably do 5, 6 tires from empty. And these mountain bike tires take a lot of air. That's plenty. And then I have a patch kit, a little bicycle patch kit that has some like these little bars that can go in and pull your tires out. These little levers, little mini crowbars, I guess. I forgot what they're called. So if I get a flat, my only repair option is to not even take the tire off the rim. Is just to take the tire off the bike, take the tire off the rim, patch it, fill it up with air, and hopefully I can make it home. If not, I got to call somebody to come pick me up. So those are my only repair options. At some point, I may carry around a spare inner tube. But like I mentioned yesterday, I'm not a big fan of carrying around so much stuff. It just, I don't know. I like to look like I'm a biker, not walking around with, 40 pounds of gear trying to ride around through the trails here that some of these people do. But that's cool. That's on them. I'm sure they got everything they need. And And then I got a water bottle in the pack as well. At some point I may get a water bottle holder, because now in order for me to get a sip of water I have to stop the bike and undo the bungee cord, get the water bottle out, drink it, put it back in. It's a little bit of a process, but that's part of the whole experience here. So nothing wrong with that. I am on pedal assist 2 right now because this is usually a part of the trail that is uphill. Good morning. So I am pedaling uphill here, but it's a great day. I did call Lectric yesterday. They had pretty long hold times. I assume because they may have been off Friday and some sort of holiday, and then they, normally the day back, they a little bit slow. I was on hold for about an hour, but I was working, so I just had the phone sitting there, and that was talk about the front rotor. And it's a pretty neat system that they have. When you have a problem with your bike, they will send you a link to your phone, and you could just text them back a picture of what could be going on. And I took a picture of my front wheels spinning, and they were able to see that visibly the rotor was bent, and they're sending me a new rotor. And they were even going to send me a link to an authorized bike shop where I could just take the bike there and they would install the rotor on the tire and then send the bill back to Lectric. So that was great. I asked if I could install it myself. I'm somewhat handy with that. So they said, oh yeah, if you want to install it yourself, go ahead and do it. And I looked at the rotor. Literally taking the tire off doesn't require any tools. And the rotor maybe has 6 or 7 star bit screws, which is everybody has a star bit at home. And as long as you tighten them down in the right order, you should be okay. So I don't see a problem with me installing the rotor, but if I do, they will send me a link to a bike shop that will do it. I'm assuming I would just bring in the front tire, not my entire bike, because I don't have a rack right now until Thursday. That's when Amazon's going to deliver what I just ordered. It's a Young America, young something. Looked like a nice rack with a ramp on it. But other than that, like I said, I still love this bike. And I know I mentioned a little bit about charging the battery and stuff like that. And the only thing I've been doing is when I get home from a ride, as I mentioned yesterday, I use more battery on the way home than I do on the way out. They want you to let the battery cool down a little bit before you plug it in to charge. So I get home, I just set the bike down. I don't even pay attention to it for a few hours, and then I will charge it up. Maybe like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then let it charge for a few hours until the light turns green, or overnight if you have to. The charger, I think it's a smart charger. It knows when to stop. It doesn't keep charging. And then I unplug it, and then it says to unplug the charger as well, so I don't leave the charger plugged in. And then get up the next day and get back out on the road. Like I said, don't worry too much. I mean, e-bikes are complicated, much more complicated than a regular bike. And like I said, I try to keep things a little less complicated. So that's all I do. I just let the bike cool down a little bit, and I don't have any way to measure if it's even got hot or not. So I just let it sit for a couple hours when I get home, and then I plug it to charge, full charge again. And then I go out bike riding. There was one time where I didn't charge it, and I thought I could squeeze 2 rides out of it. Surprisingly, I was able to do it, but I started getting range anxiety towards the end. I was about 5 miles from home, and I only had like 3 bars left, so I really had to pedal. I was afraid because there's a couple areas where I'm on the road with cars. And when I'm on the road with cars, I tend to want to go as fast as I can go in a safe way, so I'm not just holding up traffic or anything like that. I guess, I don't know what's the safest way. Maybe going slower is safer, I don't know, but I tend to go fast just to get on the road and off the road as fast as I can until I get to where the trail starts up again. So, and there's a couple uphills, and the uphills are pretty impossible on a bike like this, especially if they're pretty steep. So I always use pedal assist. I mean, I could do it. It would just be a very slow ride. Maybe even better if I walk it, to be honest. It'll be maybe easier to do. But I started getting range anxiety. So I told myself, you know what, I'm trying to make this battery last as long as possible because they are expensive and the bike is new. It's just a few weeks old. Battery is new. But then I thought to myself, you know what, whatever. I don't want to deal with all that stuff. So I'm going to charge it when I get home. I'm going to use the bike up. The only time that I think I will do the 80% charge, you know, is maybe like in the winter. Then I will probably take one last ride at some point, drop the battery from 100 to 80%, and then at that point, you know, store the battery over the winter. I think that's the only thing that I will do. Because we've all had some sort of electronic device with a battery that we set aside, I don't know, maybe like the kid's scooter, and didn't charge it appropriately over the winter, and then you come in the spring and you want to charge it up again, and you get nothing. It won't charge at all, and it's pretty much needs a new battery. So I had that happen with one of those Razor scooters that my daughter, she's too old for it now, but I'm going to have to donate that scooter at some point because the battery only really worked for maybe 2 years, I would say, with minimal usage, you know, maybe once a week. It wasn't even that much. So yeah, that's the only battery maintenance tips I'll give you is if you're going to store it for a long time, store it at 80% charge. Don't store it at 100% charge. That's what everybody says. And there's somebody there passing me up on an e-bike. Helmet, gloves, knee pads, flying. And that's what I've noticed a lot of times when, like yesterday on my way home, I passed by like the e-bike group. And that's great. A bunch of people riding their e-bikes. Looked like they were a little bit older people that they were just having a great time. I thought I saw one that had one of those lay-down bikes where you almost lay completely flat, and it looked like it was an e-bike because they were moving at slow speeds and they weren't even pedaling. So I don't know much about that, but hey, anything to get out, get on the trails. I'm not a speed demon on these trails. I like to enjoy the scenery. Like I said, I usually stick around 10 miles an hour. I have noticed that some people on e-bikes just want to fly. They're always on pedal assist. The minute they get on their bike, they leave it at pedal assist 2 or 3, and it stays on pedal assist the entire ride. So if you're on pedal assist 3, the minute you leave your house, and assuming it's a regular trail, you could probably get 20-30 miles out of it, depending on your weight and how many hills you have to climb. But your average speed is going to be 15 to 20. So you will be flying, passing people up. And I guess it's a little scary when somebody's running or walking next to you and you fly by them going at 20 miles an hour. I usually slow down to really a crawl. Maybe I'm doing like 7 miles an hour when I pass people up, depending on what's going on. If they recognize that I'm coming, I go a little faster. I ring the bell. But sometimes the runners have headphones on. They can't hear you. And I've noticed every time I go by them, they get startled. And I don't want to startle anybody, so I try to go by maybe a little bit slower at a reasonable speed, not to freak anybody out. Or, you know, if they move to the side, I don't want to hit them or anything like that. You know, the people can't really hear you coming. These bikes are quiet. The motors, I guess the XPeak 2, I forgot what it was, but it was like a couple 100% quieter than the original XPeak 1, which I don't know anything about other than some of the videos that I've watched. But this motor is very quiet. You really cannot hear it at all. So it's not on right now, but here I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to slow down here to a stop. And I'm going to go full power, put it on 5, and I'm just going to go motor only so you guys can hear it. 3, 2, 1. So you may hear it accelerate, but once you've accelerated, you can no longer hear it. Right now I'm going steady. I'm not trying not to mash on the throttle because that would take me too fast for this trail, especially some of these turns. So, but I'm going to mash it here, and once I turn the corner, there we go. but it's full throttle. And I'm doing 18, 19, 20 miles an hour right now. Probably cannot hear the motor at all. Plus it gets a little bit windy. I'm going to reduce the throttle here. There's people up here. Just post 5 in here. Not bad. Good morning. Good morning. Lady's always on the trail. Kudos to her because we're pretty far away from any kind of parking lot right now. So she's a good 1.5 miles, 2 miles from where she parked, maybe about a half. So she likes to get a 3-mile walk in. That's great. These beautiful trails. This little piece of the trail I'm on right now, I think sometimes closes down when it's too much rain because they have an opening here. And I don't even know what you would do. There's another little turn off of it right before I get to here. But at any rate, so yeah, perfect bike. I really like it. There's really not that many frills on this bike. There's no Bluetooth connectivity, none of that stuff. The Monarch marker, I always have a hard time saying that. I always want to say maker. But the marker, morning. The marker has all kinds of Bluetooth capabilities with, and I think if you pre-order it now, you get a free, I mean it's not free, but they include it, a smart helmet, which is like a $200 and maybe $50 value, and it's got integrated lights in the back. The bike itself has signal lights, and then apparently it Bluetooths to your helmet, so when you turn your signal lights on, your back brake light has a signal light left or right, but then your helmet also signals left or right, because it's all about visibility. The people behind you sometimes can't see your little taillight in the back, but if they're looking at the back of your head, they could probably see a light. And I think it has an automatic light in the front that may or may not turn on when it gets dark. Don't know much about it. I'm a little nervous to have that much technology out here on the road or on the trail, but I'm a technologist, so I should be able to deal with it just fine. At first I bought the second bike for my wife because they had just come out with it and I wanted the latest and greatest, but she's not into technology as much as I am, so I said, man, I'm going to give her this bike with Bluetooth connectivity and helmet that connects Bluetooth, and the helmet has speakers and microphones. She'd never use that. So she's like, yeah, I don't want all that technology. So I said, okay, well, I'll take the marker, and she can have the XPeak 2. And like I said, this bike is no frills. It's just get on it and go. I mean, it's obviously got some technology here. The front suspension fork on this is I think it's called a Renegade. And every video you watch, someone will tell you that it's a $400 fork. When you get a $400 fork on a $1,500 to $2,000 bike, they put some heavy investment on it. And I have it at the softest setting, which I think is how it comes when you buy it. I really like the way this thing soaks up all the bumps. And it has a little lever on the side here that you can easily flip while you're riding it. There's two. One is for the preload, and I think that's more of how hard it goes up and down, like how hard the suspension is. And on the other side, I think it's just a quick way to, I'm not 100%. I'm not going to mess with the preload. I just mess with the lever that's on the right side as you're on the bike, on the passenger side, if you will. And you can make it stiff. And the only time I've noticed that I really need to make it stiff is if you need to ride standing up and you need to pedal hard. Like, let's assume that you don't want to use pedal assist, or you do, but you want to stand up to pedal up that hill. Very hard to do when your suspension is set soft, because the bike is now bouncing with you. And it's just a really weird feeling. It's like you're standing on a mattress trying to walk on a mattress. I don't know how else to say it, but it's a very weird feeling. So I'd say if you are an avid rider and you like go up hills where you find yourself standing up for that power stroke, you may want to, I think it's called lock it out, where you flip the little switch so you have no suspension. It's just completely stiff now, because otherwise it's like walking on a mattress, which is a very strange feeling. I mean, but I love the suspension fork on this. The Marker has a different kind of suspension. It's some sort of in-house design. It's called the Nice, but it has a silent G in front of it. Something to do with Minnesota, where they came from. I don't know enough about it. And it's a reverse arch fork. So these forks normally have the arch. You can probably see a little bit of it right here in the front. The other one has it in the back. There may be some advantages to that. Somebody somewhere, an engineer, did some research on it and said, oh, it's more stable if it's in the back. Don't know enough about it, but as long as it responds as good as this one, if it's better than this one, that's very impressive, because this is, I mean, I thought this is about as good as it gets. When you guys see the size of the fork on here, especially when you're used to like a regular bicycle that you would, you know, the ones you've had for 20, 30 years, unless you have fat tire bikes, but when you have a fat tire bike with a suspension fork on the front, that suspension fork is massive. I mean, it is just a massive piece of equipment. So this bike has what they, you know, the Renegade, which is like a $400 fork. So they've invested some pretty decent amount of money to get this bike to work. It's what's considered a hardtail, and a hardtail is basically no suspension on the back. I do have the suspension seat post. I've got mixed feelings on that. I do feel it once in a while. It's a noticeable feeling when you do hit a bump that's hard enough. I usually stand up a little bit or try to alleviate a little bit of pressure on my butt when I hit these bumps, so I'm not really hitting them hard. But I have seen some different kind of suspension forks that are a little different, that have like a knuckle on each side. It looks like it's got levers, and I may get one of those at some point. But as I talked about in the video yesterday, I do have the upgraded seat, the comfort seat, and I think that's great. Now, I'm sure there may be seats that are more comfortable. A lot of people talk about the Cloud 9, and I looked in my attic on my really old bike that, you know, I bought a seat 20 years ago, and it was a Cloud 9 seat. Now, it wasn't, but now this seat's 20 years old. It had a lot of padding, way narrower. It had more padding than the seat I'm on right now, which is Lectric's comfort seat, but it was narrower. And I tried it out for a ride. Started off great. The bike looks great with a narrow seat. When you got these big seats, the bike looks a little funny when it's just, when you're not on it, but you know, you really don't care about that. And it was not comfortable. It was not comfortable after a long ride. I got back and I was pretty sore. So Lectric had sent me a replacement seat. I think I mentioned I had a problem with my one seat, so I put the replacement on, and huge difference. So Cloud 9 does sell different kinds of seats. The only recommendation that I would tell you is the wider the seat, the more comfort you're probably going to get from it. Now, that may vary from men and women, I don't know, but the seat I'm on now has much more width than the Cloud 9 that I had. And the Cloud 9, as I mentioned, was over 20 years old, so they have much newer models out. The technology has probably changed, so do some research. But I would say if the wider the seat, the more comfort you can get, at least for men, because that worked really nice. I mean, the minute I went back to this wide seat, I was like, holy cow, what a difference. And you know, I would say I'm sitting pretty much 99.9% of the ride. I have the seat up very high. You know, try to follow all the recommendations out there of how you should have your seat. It's very easy to adjust the seat post on the XPeak. You can just pull over to the side, unclasp it, and raise and lower it. And everyone will give you different advice on how high you should have your seat, where your knees should be. And the best advice that I found on YouTube is someone said, okay, stand on your bike up against the wall where your feet are on the pedals, but you have a hand on the wall to hold your bike upright, and put your heel of your shoe on the pedal. And your seat should be set high enough that when your heel is on the pedal on the downstroke, it should be perfect, like right on the pedal. Your knee should be completely extended, because you don't ride your bike on the heel. You ride it on your tip of your foot. But if your heel is on your pedal fully extended, and your seat, and you're not like lifting yourself up, or your knee is not bent, that's the right height. Now that may seem high for some folks, but that works for me. So like when I come to a stop, I am literally on my tippy toes on the ground. The bike does have a little lean to it. Like I said, for some people that may not work, but for me it's actually perfect, because when I ride, I'm very upright. Maybe if my handlebars could go up a little higher, that would be nice. I know they sell extension kits, but that's, like I said, more complications to your bike, more things. But I'm able to stop the bike, put my foot down on my tippy toes, and that seems to work for me. Maybe not the safest for everybody, so do what works, but just make sure you're comfortable. Some people don't even care. They just get on the bike and they leave the seat where it was at, and they start riding, and their knees are, hitting them in the chest. And I'm not sure that's as comfort as you want, especially when you're just going out for a nice cruise. I just realized I had pedal assist on this entire time when I shouldn't have. But yeah, other than that, great bike. It's got all the technology you want. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention is, I guess it's happened to me once, and I have to carry the key. These bikes have a key that locks the battery in. And so if you did park somewhere, someone can't just run up to your bike and snag your battery. You got to put a key in it. And I guess these batteries on this bike, it's only happened to me once, and I think it happened because I plugged in the bike to charge when it was still on. And I would say, if you're going to charge your bike, make sure you turn it off first if you're going to charge the battery in the bike. And the battery has a sleep mode. And when the battery goes into sleep mode, you cannot turn on the bike, no matter what you do with the power switch or the keys or anything. You will not be able to turn on the bike. You physically have to drop the battery out of the bike, either remove it completely, or when you hit the key, it does drop out a little bit, and then there's like a safety latch, and then physically push the power button on the battery to wake it up. And then you're good. Then I haven't had it happen to me since. Then I was able to turn the bike on and off every day from the lever on my thumb here. But that one time it happened, thank goodness I had watched the video, because for the average person, they would think that something's wrong, the battery broke. They'd be taking the battery in and out, never really pushing the button on the battery to wake it back up. And that's the only way to do it, is you have to push that. So since then, because what happened to me, it went to sleep while I was riding it. Luckily, I was only around the corner from my house. Had I been really far away and that happened to me, and I didn't have the key with me, I would have had to ride home or call for a ride. Well, so now I carry the key with me. I have it on a key ring around one of the brake cables here. Probably not the best thing to do, obviously, if you're concerned about theft or anything like that. But I'm hoping never to have to use it. And I really don't leave my bike anywhere that I walk away from it during this ride. The restroom that they have up here, I could pull the bike right into it. It's a single stall, but it's a huge one. And I could pull the bike right in and then pull the bike right out, so I don't have to worry about unplugging it. So yeah, that's another tip for you guys, is maybe carry that key with you in your pocket or your key ring, whatever. Or, attach it to your bike so you never forget it, and then just make sure you unattach it if you leave your bike unattended. But that's a Lectric thing. I don't know if other bike manufacturers have it, but Lectric does. And that's one of those things that you'll think your bike broke, and you'll start calling support and be on the phone for an hour for them to tell you, hey, just drop the battery, push the power button, and then put the battery back in, and you're good to go. Weird feature, but I'm sure it's some sort of safety. There's a reason for that. So it only happened to me once, hasn't happened since. So other than that, the brakes are great. They're hydraulic brakes, and if you're not used to hydraulic brakes, if your bike is an older bike with a physical cable, I mean, this has a cable, but there's fluid that goes through it. It's not like a metal cable like what you're used to on the old bikes. So hydraulic brakes, when you squeeze the lever, it's very smooth. Morning. Very, very smooth because there's just fluid being pushed. There's no cable and springs and all that stuff you're messing with. So the brakes on these bikes are very good. You can lock up the tires very easily. You got to be careful with that front brake. That does most of the work. But yeah, if you slam on the brakes, you are going to stop. It's longer than a traditional bike because you've got all this extra weight, but it will stop. It will stop very hard if you need to hit those brakes. But overall, great bike. I'm very excited. I think it was a great purchase. I'd recommend anybody who is starting off and doesn't know too much about the bikes, just wants something that's reliable to get out there. And maybe this is, step one of my journey on e-bikes. Maybe this is a lot of people call it a beginner bike. I think it's a little bit nicer than a beginner bike because I thought what I rented in Florida was a beginner bike. It was terrible. I don't even know what it was. This is a bike I could see myself having for a very long time. The only thing that's going to change me having for this bike is when the battery dies. Then you got to make a decision. Do you invest $500 on a new battery, or you just buy a new bike? And then, but what do you do with this bike, right? So my initial thought right now is buy a new battery, but 5 years from now, who knows what kind of technology is coming out. The same can go for those electric lawnmowers people get at home. I mean, it's a nice thing. People can mow. It's really nice and quiet. But at some point, you're going to change that battery out. It may be 5 or 10 years from now, but that gas mower you have will go forever, 20 years, but it does need a little bit more maintenance. So same kind of concept here. Those bikes you have at home, you've had for 20 years in the attic or wherever, hanging up in your garage, those will last you forever. The battery is going to have to be changed out, and without a battery, these bikes really can't be ridden around. They're not made to be ridden around without a battery. They'd be very awkward. You really wouldn't get it. It's a cool looking bike, but without a battery, it's not really something you would use. But yeah, so that was the end of my loop here, the Savannah. What's this loop called here? Rollins Savannah. And I'm heading back now. I think I'll make a left up there and head back home. But it's about a 2.5 hour ride. I tried to do it in the morning. I really do enjoy it. I've been on 0 pedal assist for the last 10 minutes of this video. But yeah, if you have any questions on this bike, how it works, I had a ton of questions. I looked at all the videos, and like I said, I ended up on this bike. I feel like I know quite a bit about this bike now. I mean, there's probably more to learn, but other than that, it's a good bike. It does have its nuances, like I mentioned, with the menu system, with the P01 and O2 all the way to 22. Kind of hard to remember which setting is which, but I have a cheat sheet on my phone on the settings that I care about, because a couple times they reset on me. I don't know how they reset, but one of them is to unlock it from class 2 to class 3, and it somehow reset back to class 2, and I didn't know it. And as I mentioned earlier, when I get on the roads, I like to go full speed. I like to hit the 27, 20 mile an hour, and I couldn't do it. I was like, what is going on? I had to pull over and unlock the bike again. But you forget which menu item it is. So I have a little cheat sheet, nothing complicated, just a couple features that I like. P22 is like the max power. Like when you hit the throttle, it can gradually increase from low power to full power, or just go to full power. And I just go to full power because I can control the gradualness with my thumb on how hard I press the accelerator. And then obviously unlocking it from class 2 to class 3 is another setting. And then the other one I accidentally kept doing is resetting the odometer, thinking that I wanted to track my miles for the trip, and I had to reset the odometer. But I didn't realize that the odometer, kind of like your car, you can't really reset it. It's the total miles the car has ever driven. On these electric bikes, you can reset it, but it has a trip meter. And I thought the odometer was the trip meter, and I didn't navigate through the menu. So the trip meter will reset to 0 when you power the bike on and off. So don't reset the odometer like I was doing. So Right now my bike probably says that I've ridden, 50 miles in total, but I'm probably closer to 500 miles. But I can't tell. Because I've been resetting it the whole time. So my fault on that one. I'm no longer resetting it. And the menu for that was P16. And you'd have to hold the button to reset it. So not sure why they let you reset the odometer on these, because if I were able to sell it, I could reset the odometer and say, hey, I drove 200 miles. I don't think there's a way to get the total mileage that you've done. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And any questions, I guess like, subscribe, comment below. And if I got something wrong, there's a couple things I did wrong in my video yesterday that I realized. But whatever, it is what it is. If you have questions, ask, and I'll clarify if I misspoke or called something watts instead of volts and whatnot. And we'll go from there. All right, if you guys want Lectric, look at their website. I think they've got a Father's Day deal going on right now that's still going on. A bunch of free stuff. And great bike. All right, over and out.